Sir John Williams.
Hey Chris, how you doing, man? You good?
Yes, I'm doing great after hearing such wonderful music.
Nice, man. Nice.
I know my viewers and subscribers are gonna enjoy this show. I know you have a lot to teach us, right? And I know most persons who are gonna log on have had some form of tutorship from you in the past.
Ah,
All right, I know
yes.
Dennis and Alex and those guys will be logging on real soon.
Oh my goodness, great. It'll be good to see them again.
Definitely. Awesome. All
Yes,
right,
man.
Sir John, I know you brought a topic for us. Before we get into our actual Q&A, I'm going to ask you just to share with us something that you have brought to share with the Music Hacks Network. I know when we met in the week, we spoke something about the 251 movement. And I know
Yeah.
you would have wanted to sort of shed some light on that and your interpretation.
Yes, man. No problem with that.
All right.
Excellent.
So without any further ado, Zoom audience and YouTube audience, Mr. John Williams at this time.
Good evening again, everybody. Really nice to be invited on this program. It's my first time here, and it's a real joy and an honor to be asked to come in and do this show. The 251 is one of the most popular progressions that we use in music. Very popular primarily in jazz, and of course, if we're talking about jazz, we're also talking about gospel. And 251 is or what we call a turnaround is a progression comprising of three chords. Two, which stands for the second degree in a major scale. If you guys understand your modes, you'll know that there are 7 modes, right? Starting with the what's the first mode again? I'm always forgetting. Um, do I? No, that's mode number 2. Dorian is mode number 2. You have Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, and they have Aeolian, and my 7th mode is Locrian. And all of these modes make up, when you play the chords on them, they span the gamut of the major scale. So if I were to do the modes in C major, the first mode would be, of course, the chord C. Now the second chord is going to be a D, but it's a minor chord. The third chord would be an E minor. The fourth chord would be an F major. And that's another major. And then the fifth chord is going to be a G major. And that also is another major. The sixth chord is going to be a minor, which is A minor. And the seventh chord is going to be a minor 7 flat 5. Right? And that makes up your modes. So when we're talking about 2, we're talking about D minor in the key of C major. We're talking about 2, talking about the D minor to the 5, which is G major, and back to 1. Now, the beauty about this 251 progression is that it goes to the 5. Now, anytime you hear a 5, it usually suggests that you're going back to the 1. Right? So the 5 is what we call, the 5 to the 1 is what we call in classical music a perfect cadence, because it's carrying us back home. It's complete. It's what we call it. We would call a complete cadence. And so the 2-5-1 creates another nice dimension, because the 2 is telling us where we're going, what do we want to do. And then when you land on the 5, it puts a sense of, we're going home. And so I think for that reason, the 2-5-1 progression has become such a popular progression. It's used extensively in jazz harmony, and it's seen in a lot of jazz compositions. And of course, when we play today, we don't just play the straight minor chord. We add a 7th to it. So we get D minor 7. And then when we play the G, we don't just play the straight G major chord, but we add a 7th to it. And then when we play the 1, we add a 7th, another 7th, but it's a major 7th. So you go from a minor 7 to what we call a dominant 7th, or just a 7th, and then we go to a major 7. So in the 2-5-1 progression, the primary 7ths are covered: the minor 7, the dominant 7th, and the major 7. And I'm going to play a song, and you're going to hear how it features in this song. So if I were to play Mary Had a Little Lamb, I'm going to use a 2-5-1. So it's 1 to the 5, back to the 1, 1 again, and I'm going to use a 2-5 to the 5 to the 1. And so you hear the completeness of that progression. It completes the song. Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb. Here now his fleece was white as snow. And you hear that all the time. Let me play a hymn. I'm going to play What a Friend We Have in Jesus. And you're going to hear the 2-5-1 featured a lot. So here we go, 2, 5, and then back to 1. Here we go, 2, 2, 5, 1. This is a 2, 5, back to 1. Coming up again now. 2, 5, 1. Right? So you can hear very, very clearly that this progression is, because I mean everybody knows What a Friend We Have in Jesus. Think of any other song, any other hymn, any other pop song, gospel song, any other tune, and you will hear how this 2-5-1 progression is used so extensively. Now, one of the key things that we learn, especially when we're doing jazz studies, is we learn to play the 2-5-1 in all keys. In fact, we learn to play it through the cycle of fifths. Now, the cycle of fifths is some set intervals that run within a circle. It comes back around. So if we take the C, if C is our starting note, and we go down a fifth, then we go F, and if we continue down, we go to B flat to E flat to A flat, D flat, G flat, B, E, A, D, G. You're back to one again, back to C. All right? That's a cycle of fifths. And we like to practice the 2-5-1 in all keys. Since it's so popular, then we said, well, let us learn the 2-5-1 in all keys, because we don't know what key a song will be in, where we'll be asked to utilize the 2-5-1 or even to recognize the 2-5-1. Because, you know, in jazz, we not only play just the melody, but we also have to improvise. And when we are improvising, if we understand that in jazz music or in gospel or in some of these pop songs, that a 2-5-1 progression is so popular and we have to improvise, we want to learn some licks in 2-5-1 because we don't know when it will come up. And so when we practice our 2-5-1, we practice it in all keys. But we make our lives a little interesting. We don't just go 2-5-1, right? We say, okay, let us attach the cycle of fifths to that, because, and we're not going to cover the cycle of fifths in terms of a teaching, but the cycle of fifths is also a very popular progression. So you get things like that's a cycle of fifths. You're going down in that sort of a progression in fourths or in fifths. But when we practice our 2-5-1s, we like to incorporate to the cycle of fifths. So if we start out in C major, the 2 of C major would be 2, would be D minor to the G7, back to the C. Right? Now the next key in the cycle is going to be F major. And so we go to 2 of F major, which would be G minor. The 5 of F major will be C, 7, and back to the 1, F major. And so when we practice our 2-5-1, we do it in this little sequence. It almost sounds like we're composing a song or creating some music. Let me give you an example of this. So we're in C major. F major now. Next key, B flat major. Enter new key, E flat. And we go through like that within the cycle. And sometimes if you listen to music, you can hear things like that being used. They do a lot of cycle of fifths, movements, and also 2-5-1 movements. So I hope you got a little glimpse into the 2-5-1 progression. Now, this is something that I enjoy practicing because I like to make sure I have some nice licks for 2-5-1. So I'll make up some licks or anything I want to do. So anything. So once I practice that in all my keys, so if for example I'm doing, let's do this exercise. Etc. etc. I mean, you can have so much fun with this thing. So I hope we have learned something today about the 2-5-1. I want you to listen out for it in music and say, that's a 2-5-1 progression. And if you set your heart to do that, you will soon realize how popular the 2-5-1 is. Thank you very much. Let me hand it back over to Chris.
Awesome, awesome stuff. Sir John, we did enjoy that short lesson. Sir John, you have become this giant of a musician, one of Jamaica's greatest, I must say. All right? But I'm sure that it has not have been this smooth. But tonight I would like to share with us where did all started. How was your musical journey in the beginning?
Okay, well, from as far back as I can remember, this is what my parents told me was that I came up in a musical house. My father was a musician himself.
Okay.
He sang, and he would conduct the choirs. My mother used to sing on the choir, and I can remember us having a piano in the house as far back as my memory serves me. Can remember, and I remember going to the edge of the piano, about right there. So, and I remember
Okay.
my 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 parents told me that when I was a little baby, and probably hardly could reach when I was about 2, I went to the piano and I started to play Mary Had a Little Lamb. Just that. They tell me when I was about 2, and
Okay.
they were quite shocked and surprised and said, "Wait, this youth have some little talent, the man." And so they sent me off to music lessons. I started with a teacher called by the name of Noel Foster Davis, and she started me on piano and violin. Later on, I went to Gloria Mendez and, of course, Paulette Bellamy, and she prepared me for my exams. I did the grade exams, the Associated Board of the Royal Schools of Music exams, and she prepared me for both piano and violin, which I gained a distinction. And I was I was put up, as it were. Um, It qualified me for a scholarship, and I got a scholarship to study in London at the Royal College of Music, where I did piano and violin in performance and in
Okay.
teaching. And of course, while in London, I spent 4 years there. I developed an understanding of both classical, but I also, on the side, because I didn't teach it at college, but I also learned jazz. I was in those days, I tell people in those 4 years, I learned so much. I just eat music. I drink it. That's why, I teach at Edna Manley now. And I try to encourage those students. I say, guys, you have a very limited amount of time. Use up the time, because once you leave, and the gigs start coming in, we have no time to be trying to figure out how to study.
Right.
So I would encourage them to study, as I did. I just voracious, ate up the music. And in about
Awesome.
84, I came back. And in 88, I started my production company. And back in those days, computer, cell phone. I was just on the cusp of CD. CD was like new technology. What? You have a CD player?
Yeah.
What? You got what? We're right on the cusp. So
Right.
that's where we started.
Right. Awesome. But at age 2, you must have been exposed to some form of music. Well, in terms of on the records, what were they playing? What were your parents playing in the house at that time?
Good question. We used to listen to a lot of show music. So, Rogers and Hammerstein,
Okay.
things like The Sound of Music, The Student Prince. A lot of musicals. My mother, she enjoyed that. And also, in addition, we used to listen to Handel's Messiah. It was like a
Okay.
regular staple. I know most of those pieces from memory. I mean, I
Okay.
play the Hallelujah chorus from memory because it was
Wow.
just instilled in me from when I was a little boy, you know. So yeah, we had music. My parents used to play a lot of classical and semi-classical music.
Okay. What so out of all those persons, who do you think you sort of shaped your career? We want to look into some of those persons that have actually influenced your style.
Okay, well, that didn't. I mean, every every musical part of the journey plays a part. Eh? Now, as I said, I studied classical music, so at one point in my life, I would enjoy the great piano masters and even the violin masters as well, and so that played a part in influencing how I play today. So classical is a basic foundation, and also is, like I said, whilst in college, I started to develop jazz and understand jazz. So I used to listen to Oscar Peterson, Count Basie, Art Tatum, and in the more modern era, which was in the 70s, 80s, people started to sort of develop and evolve. The jazz music evolved into jazz funk and jazz fusion, which was pulling from the bebop era and pulling from the funk era and creating, I mean, beautiful music. I mean, people like Stevie Wonder, um, back in the George Benson, Earth, Wind and Fire. I mean, those guys were playing some serious jazz. Quincy Jones. I mean, Herbie Hancock. Those guys in that era were the ones that would now begin to influence even my sound. And my sound is not just jazz, but it's also a mixture of pop, American pop of the day. Now, in those days, there was a
Right.
composer called what's the guy's name? Uh, and again, that Earth, Wind and Fire song. Something happened along the way. Um, Composed
Okay.
by the name fly out of my head just now, but he was like a champion composer. I used to listen to his style of composition and how he held the chords. I was explaining to a student of mine. It's very spatial. Things like that. They don't just play. They play this. They're very spatial. So the left hand is 5 and 10ths. The right hand is what we call quartal harmony. That sort of thing, where a lot of four notes are between them. Things like what we call C2, like this, things like that, and sus4s and those sort of open quartal intervals. I learned a lot of that because I just used to
Right.
love that sort of thing. So that has also influenced how I play today. So I encourage you guys to listen to them too. David
Awesome.
Foster is the name of the guy. Sorry. David,
Awesome, sir.
just Google David Foster and you will
Right.
see. If you don't know him, Google David Foster. He is responsible for so many great hits.
Yes. Right. Iban. Iban is
Yeah.
here. Welcome, Iban.
Wait,
All
Iban,
right.
how you doing, man?
So sorry. I'm sure we're gonna hear from Iban in a few. All
Yeah,
right.
man. Uh-huh.
But my final question for now. We're gonna bring on some of our participants to sort of have a conversation with you.
All right.
But I know two challenging genres of music, classical and jazz, right? I know it
Mhm.
takes a great deal to sort of practice these genres and become a master of it. What are some of the challenges that you had in the beginning? Because we want to understand it when it all started,
Yeah,
right?
man. Challenges. Well, when I learned jazz, this would have been the early 80s, like 82, 83. There was no cell phone. There was no YouTube. So I had to consume my music. Either I go out in the store and buy the album, or try find a nice jazz station on a radio and listen to the music. That is how I had to consume the music, and that's how I learned a lot, because I had to develop a good ear, because you hear that thing one time, I have to know what were those chords. So back in those days, my ear started to develop very quickly in identifying these chords and these songs. So yeah, so back in those days, I mean, it was quite challenging. Not like today. I mean, everything. I mean, you're on YouTube, you can slow down the thing. I mean, my goodness.
Right. Slow downers. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Right. But in terms of the technicality, how did you work on your dexterity? You know,
Mhm.
I'm sure that played a great part in your development.
Yeah. Well, like I said, classical music. Classical music helped a
Mm-hmm.
lot with that, because, of course, in classical music you have to have good facility, what we call good facility. In other words, a command or a master of keyboard arts. So scales, arpeggios,
Right.
because those classical greats really put you, as I said, breed you a lot with the stuff that we have to learn to play.
Right.
And so yeah, so the classical music really
Exactly.
helped me in terms of
Mm.
execution of patterns and that sort of thing.
Right.
And
And I'm
and
sure it would have been a lot of practice hours
oh
in
yeah.
all of that.
Oh yes. 6 7 hours per day. Yeah, man, was
Wow, wow,
roughly
wow.
my schedule.
Man,
Because I mean, I remember back in the days when
awesome,
I
awesome. All
first
right. So,
when I oh I was saying, back in the days when I had my first lesson, my piano teacher gave me like about 3 books of
mhm.
stuff to go learn for next week. I mean, it was a killer. Anyway. Uh-huh.
But just well, the one question I know Mr. Williams well, big up and respect, is a musician I've admired for years and years and years,
Yeah, man.
Um,
Hi, man. How you doing, man?
yeah, man, big up, big up. I
Yes,
know you're
yes.
a composer as well, not just a pianist,
Right.
I'm wondering if you have
Performer.
any tips or whatever, for persons like me who would want to write, write a bit more,
Right.
instead of doing covers, you know. I
Right,
think I
right.
think musicians should be aiming to do more original stuff rather than only be covering, especially like in the gospel
Correct.
field and so on. So I was wondering if you had any tips with regard to songwriting, and
Yes.
anything that you can tell us would be useful, I'm sure.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, the thing with composition is communication, you know. That's how I see it. I want to communicate something from me to you, right? Now, because I am practiced in the art form of music, that's what I use. So, part of how I want to communicate my thought to you, I use the art. So, there's a lot of creativity, there's a lot of expression, there's a lot of what I'd call genuine or authentic um expression. So if I want to say to my audience, have some hope. Don't buckle down under the weight of the pandemic. Say, for example, I wanted to write a song about hope. So because I'm practicing the art, I will construct something from a scientific perspective. What is hopeful? What key is hope? What key is a hopeful key? So for me, I start there, So I'll probably say B flat, hopeful, you know, E flat, don't give up, you know. And so that's the creativity mixed with the science. So if you're a songwriter and you have to flow with some lyrics, and you go outside and you probably go on your roof and you look up in the sky What does hope sound like? What words? And you really exercise your creativity, and you probably come up with a line. I like that. You know, when if I'm composing a song, as I have to sometimes, I mean, I have to compose on demand. So persons will send either lyrics or send an idea. For me personally, I first like to get the chorus. I want to find a hook. What is the thing that the audience will leave remembering after they hear my song? Because people may not remember the words for the verse, but if you have a strong hook, have hope, have hope, have hope, whatever, they'll leave singing that. So you want to have a strong hook, and then you can crowd that hook with your words. So for me, for songwriting, my first thing is I want to communicate my thought to you, and then I want to do it in a creative way, but I also want to do it not only creative but scientifically too, because I'm practicing the art of music, so I can afford to do that. So I hope that kind of helps. And experiment.
Yes, man. Thanks much. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Good to see you too.
But anyways, good night to everybody.
Night,
Good night,
night.
Mr. Williams. And
Hey, night, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good, man. Having come on this
Wonderful.
program, I'm doing good, man.
Wonderful. I really enjoyed the presentation for this evening. 251s.
Yeah.
I always I knew the whole circle of force movement, but in terms of practicing in that manner with
Mhm.
251s, on a, let's say, experimental basis, have you ever recommended or found yourself practicing 251s in different variations while doing that exercise in the
Yeah,
circle of
man.
fifth?
Yeah.
And would you recommend that?
Of course. Yeah. The thing with the 251, as I was showing you in terms of developing rhythmic patterns or what we say licks.
Yeah.
I mean, you can make up any, you don't have to stick to the same pattern. But what
Okay.
I usually do with my students, if they're very new to improvisation, I'd say find a pattern and use that same pattern, because you may not be able to think up another pattern, in the flow of the
That is
moment.
true.
So I usually say that, and usually when they do that, they'll begin to develop their licks library,
I
because
see.
then they'll learn one lick in all keys, and then they find another lick, whatever, right? And they'll develop the library. So, and then they'll do it like you suggested. They have lick one, whatever, So
I see. But that also brought up another interesting question, if I may. In terms of improvising your patterns in real time on stage and so forth, what
right.
exercises or what mental practice methods could you use to develop that skill to be able to think of patterns or think variations of progressions in real time?
Right, yeah. Now that is a big question and a big topic.
I see.
And it's something that we do with our students. We train them, because what you're up against is trying to figure out what notes work in
Yeah.
this chord progression. All right. So if you're playing F major 7 to a C minor 7 to a F7 to a B flat major 7. What notes work in that progression? Now, the first thing you'd have to understand is, all right, I'm playing in F major 7. So I can do F major arpeggio. All right, the next chord is a C minor 7. I can do a C minor 7 arpeggio. The next chord is a F7. I can do a F7 arpeggio. And then the next chord is a B flat major 7. So if I were to play it just using arpeggios, just the device of arpeggios, it'll sound something like this. Right? So already you're setting up yourself, at least I'm playing the right notes.
Yeah.
You understand? Because that is the thing with improvisation. You know, we hear a lot of improvisation, but like the notes that persons are playing, it doesn't relate to what the chord is.
Yeah.
And so it sounds, there's a disconnect, you know? And,
Yeah.
and so these are the things you have to practice. You have to know what notes work in this particular chord or in this series of chords, what we call a progression.
Okay.
So that's basic. But like I said, it's a big topic.
I understand.
I just give you a little pinch.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, sir, and have a wonderful night and a wonderful night to the rest of the members here.
Yeah, man, no problem.
Yes.
We have Edward Reed.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Long
man.
time
Sir
no see
Eddie.
you. How you doing, guy?
Williams, man.
Yeah, man. Long time, man. You good?
So far, yeah, man, I'm good. I'm good.
Excellent, man. Nice to see you.
When I saw the flyer with you being here tonight, I said I have to rope in, you know?
Yeah, man. Thank you so much.
Man, no problem, man. It's always a pleasure to listen to you explaining, breaking down the basic movements in jazz. Right. Just a few things. I know jazz has, well, it's unlimited. And speaking of modes, when you speak of modes, I know we're talking about Dorian, Phrygian, and so on. Now, in a case where you want to go outside of a particular scale or a particular chord, for instance, you're playing in C. And you say, all right, is it okay to use a Dorian over that A minor? Because if you're using a Dorian over the A minor, it's going to take some of the keys will be out of the scale. Yes.
Yeah, all right. No. This is the other thing now. I mean, because I'm sure you have heard it done. I'm sure you have heard. So to create tension and that sort of thing. No.
Yeah.
We can understand if you're playing playing with understanding and with knowledge that I want to create a tension chord here, right?
Yes.
But usually when I teach my students, I say, well, I know you're not so developed yet. So if I hear any tension, I know it's a mistake.
Okay. All right.
Because I know you're not applying the rules, right? So, for the beginners, those coming up, I would more encourage them to understand the principle, play in the right keys. Now, after that, when you're very familiar, very comfortable, you're on stage and a vibe reach you, and you want to create something, you know. Well, you know what you're doing, because I know I'm going to get back to where I need to get back.
Right.
You know, and something I tell my students: when you're playing, you're actually communicating with the audience, and when you do things like that, and you create a tension in the minds and the hearts of the audience, you don't want to leave them there.
No.
Flap it out. You have to be skilled. You have to know what you're doing. If you create that tension and you feel them getting uneasy, and you somehow have a way where now you can just bring them back to some safe zone, and you do it with skill and understanding, and they say, yeah, and I say, yeah, man, boy, wicked, no man, yeah. Right? We have to know what you're doing, right? And so when you're delving outside of the box like that, that's just what it is. You're going out, and that's fine. It's fine to go out the box, but make sure you know the box.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah, that's true. So the basic is always important, and then
Of
you
course,
can
yeah.
to
Because that's
branch
your
out.
foundation. Excellent. Yeah.
Next point. Sorry. I know you're doing like 2-5-1s, 2-5-1. So about like a minor 2-5 and a minor 1. I know like for a minor 2-5, 1 minor. The all right, no. I'm on the keyboard. Sorry. Locrian. I know that Locrian is one of those.
Half diminished.
No, half diminished scale to go there.
So I think the question you're asking, if you're playing in a minor,
right.
you're playing a minor, the 2 would be a minor 7 flat 5.
Minor 7 flat 5, right.
And you probably use an altered 7
to a dominant.
to a minor 6 or something.
6.
Yeah? Right, exactly.
Okay. And in a case where bebop scales comes in now, I know that, I know maybe about 5 of them in existence. So, how do I ask now? How would you break it down in terms of experiment? I guess we have to experiment in terms of using these skills.
Well, let me give you one bebop, what we call the bebop mixolydian. So the bebop scale adds another note in the scale. Now, regularly our scales are 7 notes, but the bebop gives it an 8, so it makes it a more even sound, even progression, or even scale. So say, for example, let's go back to the 2-5-1, since we're doing 2-5-1s today. So 2 minus 7 to the 5, which is 1-7, a G7, back to the 1, right? Now the thing about the 2-5-1 progression is that the notes in the 2-5-1 progression are all the same notes. So if I were to play it in C major, watch this. It's the same notes, so it can work.
Yes.
Because it falls within the modal construct of the scale. Understand? So now, the bebop scale, we're going to look at the mixolydian bebop scale. Now, the mixolydian, which would be the 5. So if you're 2 and then 5, so your scale would start on a G. That would be the mixolydian scale, because a 5 scale, 5-degree scale. Now the bebop angle of it is going to add a major 7 to that scale. So you're going to get something
F sharp.
Right?
Right.
So it gives that jazz sound. Now look on this. I'm going to use the mixolydian bebop scale over the 2-5-1. Listen to how it sounds now. So I don't go 2, so I'm doing the 5 scale, right? So listen to this.
Okay.
Right? And already you sound like, wow.
Right.
I can't play, man. No, I just play in a scale.
Yes.
It's knowledge.
Sure. It's application.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so if you understand these things, it will improve your playing.
Yes, sure.
Because you're not just playing and you hope that some hit, but say a couple of them are going to miss, but because we don't really know what I do. No, let's depart from that. That's why we're here on this.
Right. That's true. That's true.
But some good questions, Edward. Yeah, I see them classes are, are reaping some fruit and
Of course.
benefit.
All right.
Oh
Really
my
appreciate it,
God.
man. Thank you so much, Mr. Williams.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
man.
Thanks.
My
All
pleasure,
right.
man.
Man, take it easy. All right, cool. Sir Chris, big up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, man. So Edward is a former student
Yes, yeah, man. Look who
from
I
the
know.
Enamanle.
Yes, correct.
Bless up, Eddie.
Yes,
Yes,
man.
Alright.
bless up, man. Blessings, man. Cool.
Awesome. I think
Alright.
TJ, you have another question for Sir John?
Um, well, while he was mentioning the bebop scale, interesting question came to mind because I've never been told this before. I don't really have like formal training, so there are certain theoretic things I don't know. I have realized that there's a bebop major 1, a bebop major 2 scale, I think it would be called. But when I look, they are the same notes. So why are they technically named 2 different scales if they technically have the same notes?
It's because of the note it starts on. So, and
Okay.
this is the concept of modes, right?
Okay.
So if we're in the key of C major,
Yeah.
the C major, all the notes in C major work for all the notes in the modes, for all the
Yeah.
chords in the modes, right?
Yes, sir.
Right? It's the same
Yes,
C
sir.
major, right? But when you get into jazz harmony and you hear how they approach the chords, and when you listen to what they were playing, you can hear them actually using the modes, but they incorporate certain either what we call chromatic approach tones or the bebop bebop notes in them
Okay.
to change the character a little bit different, but it's the same notes. But you have to understand that, So
Okay. I see. Very interesting. Okay,
yes,
thank
man.
you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, there's a lot of
Bless up,
things in there.
TJ.
Yeah, bro, please.
All right. All right, Sir John. I know the musicians are trying to get a lot out of this show. All right.
Yes,
But my task is to sort of get more of who John Williams is and
yeah,
was.
man.
So I know you have shared stage with a lot of famous people. When I looked into your CV, I saw Anita Baker there.
Yeah, man. We met her, I think. I never had a good camera. I take a picture with her. But yes, but we met her.
Oh, you
man.
didn't get a picture?
I didn't get a picture. Those were in the days when I had like cell phones, like it was
Okay.
everybody was flickering, selfie, come Anita, come,
Right.
So,
Well, I hope the opportunity turns up at another time so you can definitely get one of those selfies.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right. What were some of the other persons that you have actually shared stage with?
Oh boy, that's a long list. I remember James Ingram one time. I mean, the first time I'd met the guy, I love his songs. I used to, me and my wife, we love to listen to his stuff. Wynton Marsalis, I don't know if you ever heard of Wynton Marsalis, and Branford Marsalis as well. I think Joe Sample came here one time. It's so many of them. And over in the gospel, Sandy Patty, Larnell Harris, back in those days. Well, I can't remember now, but yeah, a lot of people,
Right. I'm seeing two persons there that would be on the top of my list. Ron Kinoli and Helen Baylor.
Yes,
those guys I absolutely
Ron Kinoli.
adore.
Exactly. Yeah,
How did you
man.
meet Ron and Ron?
Well, I mean, he was doing a show, and we were billed on it as well. And I remember we were asked to support his performance, like in between his sets, in between his songs. So after you'd run his tracks, and then in between we would play like background music, or what I probably call ministry music, while he's talking to the audience and that sort of thing. So yeah, and a cool guy, at the time, and
Right.
yeah, I mean, just a regular ordinary guy.
Awesome,
No,
awesome.
no fandangos,
All right, and my female gospel artist of all times, Helen Baylor. Tell me
Yes.
about playing for Helen.
Well, we shared the stage, so Helen Baylor would have probably been the main act, and I was just one of the acts there. So I don't think we actually met,
Okay.
but we're built together
Oh,
on the same stage. So
awesome.
back in those days, I
Awesome.
used to play a lot more than I do now. I don't know. These young people come and take over the
Okay.
show, so.
I tell you.
Young people time now,
Right,
let them go on.
Yes, man. We do have a youngster on Zoom now, Mr. Daniel Edwards.
Yes,
Edna Manley student. You're supposed to
yes,
know
man.
Daniel. Daniel.
Yes,
Well, greetings.
yes. How you doing, son? You're good?
I'm good, sir. I'm good.
Excellent, excellent.
So it's a very interesting question. So you know that I do education. So unfortunately, well, let me not say unfortunately, but it's hard to switch and do jazz, right? But my question is, for someone like me that I play classical music, and stuff like that. How can, if I'm presented with a jazz score, how can a classical musician really approach reading a jazz score?
Well, like classical, it is going to take practice. You have to. So if you're reading a chord chart, you'd more see like a melody line, which that should be a walk in the park for you. But then no, you're going to have to put that together with some chords, because the jazz chart now would show you the chords. So you have to be well familiar with the chords. So, and usually, what I tell my students is, in every chord, make sure you have, it's three basic notes: the 1, the 3, and the 7th. So it may be a major 7 or a dominant 7 or a minor 7, right? So it will be like a 3-note chord: the root, 3rd, and the 7th, right? And if you learn even the chords in that basic way, don't try spell the whole chord. Just find it's a major chord, so it's a major note, at least with a major 3rd, and then find the 7th, whether it's a dominant 7 or a major 7, which you'll have to learn and practice over time. But once you get past that, you'll be surprised to know how quickly you learn to read those charts.
Thanks, sir. Hopefully one day
Yeah, man.
I'll get at least one class before I left Edna.
yeah, man.
But and next thing to with your compositions, so I've listened to, well, you can't really see your compositions on YouTube.
Not a
You
lot of them on there. I soon fix that. I soon fix it.
You'd have to catch your compositions if you see them on what's that old station before it turned TVJ? Yeah, that station there.
JB's, like JB's, some of them
If they're
old, man.
if they're showing some NDTC stuff,
Yes,
where it features mainly your compositions and stuff like that. Of course, we don't see much of that in Jamaica, but I'm very interested in that side of music.
Okay.
But if you can explain, like, what's your writing process like? Just writing for NDTC are writing for a dance. Because when you look
Well,
at it, it really, you are speaking a message. It's like film score as well,
that's
but
correct.
the dancers here are bringing what you are saying alive.
Or even vice versa.
Yeah.
I am trying to enhance the movement or the visual presentation of their movement. So that for me. If I'm asked to score a dance number, that's the first thing. I have to know what it is the dancers are communicating, and so I take my cue there. Now, usually the artistic director or the choreographer will indicate to me, well, this is I need a vibrant fire of a music, right? And I want it very percussive. So immediately, and if I understand the genre of the music, I want it either, West African or Kumina or Jamaican stuff or whatever. Then that's where I start there. I start with finding the right rhythm. And then depending now the message that they want to communicate in terms of, then I figure out the harmonies. I usually like to compose with progressions, with collection of chords, That's where I feel comfortable starting from, right? So I try to find what is my progression. I try to think of what progression I think would fit this dance,
Yeah.
And then I start there, and then as I'm playing the progression over and over, then I hear melodies, or I'll watch the movement, or they may give me a rehearsal tape of the movements, and I might see a dancer go fling, and I say, wait, that sounds like a fling note or a fling note, whatever. And I use all of those things to help tailor the music and to compose the music. So I try to use a lot of visual, aids as well to help with composing the music.
Okay, so thank you very much.
Yeah, man, no problem. I don't know if this is in public domain yet, but it's a song done by George Gershwin, long time. I'll just play a little bit of it. It's called Our Love Is Here to Stay.
Yes, sir.
man.
You are listening to the great John Williams live on the Music Hacks Network. John, man, I would listen to that all night. Tell us about some of the work that you have done so far.
Okay. Well, I did an instrumental album with Rohan Reed. We teamed up. We did an album together, and called First Fruit, and that was, I guess, that
Right.
was our launching album together. Later on, I did a worship CD called Time to Build, which featured quite a few different artists. And of course, so those were the two main albums that I have done. But of course, we've produced albums for a lot of persons. Back in the days, I used to produce the albums for the JCDC, Jamaica Gospel Festival, and a couple persons that I remember. Glacia Robinson, I don't know if anybody remembers her. She's doing quite well now. But Arvin Graham, back in the day with quite a few of the artists who are big now, but we've done work with them,
Right.
pass through. And of course, not only gospel, but a couple of popular artists. Mostly because of my Christian belief, I prefer to work more with either conscious or songs that are going to uplift people's spirits. I prefer to work with those types of artists, and so we've worked with quite a few like that. So yeah, man, done
Awesome.
quite a bit of work.
All right. Right. I'm sure you remember Garnet or Garin Gibson. He is asking where he can find the album First Fruit.
Yes,
There's no trace of it.
I need to that's terrible. That's very not really good of me. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to fix it. I actually thought I'd prepared it for like for the regular streaming services, but let me just double check that. Let me double check that,
But
because
I think Iban says he has the first cassette.
oh my goodness. He still has it. Oh my goodness. But what I'll try and do is make it available so you can download it.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. So I can do
We
that. And I
we
can
are
leave
definitely
the
looking forward to
information with
that.
you. Yes. Yeah, man. I'll
Awesome.
leave the information with you.
All right. All right, Sir John. Your achievements now. I am looking through your CV, and honestly, it's a lengthy the amount of achievements that you have received in your lifetime. All right.
Oh my
I
word.
want you to mention 3 of them and then tell us the one that means the most to you.
In terms of the actor boy, I work with a team of persons, Jambies, and they put on productions for Center Stage with Oliver. Back in the days, it was Oliver, Glenn Campbell, quite a few of those persons. And I remember doing a production with them. I think the actor boy, we had won 1 year or probably two or so times. We've won music that we used to do quite a lot of musicals in those days. And I know we've won actor boy for those. And it's a joy working with those guys because all of them professional, really, really good in their craft. And that was really that has been an enjoyable time, working with them. I remember back in the day too, I won some jazz award, and I've won a couple of awards for my group. I used to have a John Williams trio, and I remember winning they had back in the day George and Brandy jazz group or something like that for the year or something at the time. So I mean, I give God thanks. I mean, you don't set out to win awards. You don't set out to do the music. You hope that it'll bring joy to people, and that's pretty much it. When the awards come, we give God thanks. We thank for the recognition and stuff, and you do your best to keep producing good stuff.
All that you have set out to achieve, do you think that you have achieved most of what you set out to achieve, or there is more for Johnny Williams?
There's always more. There's always more. I think there's more. I mean, I think one of the things that I'd like to see is young persons being empowered, and not only empowered in, say, their craft, but also empowered to navigate through life. Because I find there are a lot of shortfall in that area, just life. I mean, we don't have a school, to show you how to be a good husband. You don't have a school that will, help you to be a good mother and that sort of thing. So you have to kind of figure it along the way, or follow the guidance of those who have gone before you, and persons who you regard as a mentor. So that has always been something for me. If I can aid in helping that, whether I'm doing a class and I get a chance, an opportunity to speak into somebody's life concerning just life and direction and making a right choice, some advice in certain things, aspects of life. That is what I constantly strive to do. So, and I'm not done yet because the world is still in a mess. So,
All right. So, Sir John, you haven't said anything about your production, Alman. You mentioned it in the briefly in the initial stage of this live show. Tell us a little bit more about Alman Production.
yeah, man, Almond Productions. We incorporated in 1995, and primarily we are a production company, and we do all kinds of stuff. Not only produce artists, recording artists, but we also do jingles and commercials for corporate clients. Um, we also do music for dance, for drama. We also do film music, which is something that we're getting a lot of traction in terms of getting a lot of calls to do that. Also, we also do orchestrating, like writing music for orchestra or whatever, whether it be an orchestra for a pop group or just the writing music for the orchestra here in Jamaica. So
Okay.
so we do a lot of stuff. Anything music, we do.
All right.
So
Awesome. And how can we find you on social media?
our website is Almond Productions. That's ALMOND Productions at www.almondproductions.com. That's the website. Once you get there, you will see all of our stuff.
Mr. Garnett.
Blessings, Sir Chris and Sir John.
Yes,
Dr.
man.
John.
How are you doing, Garnet?
I am doing great, sir. I'm doing great. So,
Good man.
I don't know if you remember me, but I used to be the first keyboard player for Catalyst, me and Corey.
What? You serious? You see that now? Yeah, man. I remember you, man. Yes.
Only for here and look different.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes,
man. No, I've followed you over the years, Sir John, and I have high respect for you. Where I used to live back in the day, I didn't have a lot of, opportunity to come to Kingston and to see you, because I used to live up in the hills, Cavaliers.
Yeah,
So whenever I get the chance, like I'm staying in Kingston, I'll go to the Mutual Life Jazz Festival. That's where, I had so much respect for you. Also, some of the work that you did with the Gospel Festival, I was also on the band to duplicate those music as well, and
nice.
so forth, and did it for many years. And you're as much as you're multi-talented, but you bring out your artistry in the music and make it while it's technical, because I don't think anything is more technical than the Rowan and John first Fruit album. And I rinsed out that cassette till mine burst, and I had to actually open it and tape it back together again.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So when I had the chance to get that cassette, I really did burn it out, and but because of the respect I have for you, and happy to know that you're still doing, still relevant. A lot of people who have started back then are not so relevant today.
That's very true.
But I'm so happy that you're relevant. You don't look a day older. Yeah, no, for real.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much.
And I really appreciate the time that I get to meet you, because I really didn't meet you a lot, but I remember you used to come to Catalyst Crew to have Bible study and so on.
Yeah,
and
you remember?
Yeah, man.
I did try.
And that was the closest I've gotten to you, but never actually worked with you or anything like that. So, but I have profound respect. I am one of your more silent fans, and I have great respect for you.
Nice, man. Boy, Garnet, good to see you, man. Really
Yes,
and
sir.
truly. Because,
Yes.
Catalyst is one of my favorite groups, man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
man.
Yes, sir.
Excellent
I
work.
appreciate you a lot. Trust
Yeah,
me.
man. Thanks a lot, Garnet. Really
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Chris.
Bless up, Garnet.
Yes, sir. Yes,
All
sir.
right. Sir John, we definitely enjoyed tonight's show. It was a blessing for you to be here on the Music Hacks Network. I'm sure a lot of persons are going to benefit from this live stream. All right. We definitely appreciate you, sir.
No problem, man. My pleasure to be here, man. Thanks so much for having me.
So guys on YouTube, if you got some value out of this show, please give us a thumbs up for this video. And as usual, hit that subscribe icon if you're here for the first time. I am Chris Bailey, your host. Thanks for joining us. Over to you, Sir John.